A lot to talk about on today's show. Is Supreme Court Justice John Roberts compromised? If Texas wins the Supreme Court battle, what happens next? If the vote ultimately ends up in the House that is controlled by Pelosi, what will that mean for President Trump? Listen, I want you to know before we even get into any of this, that I'm treating every show that I do like YouTube and Facebook are going to ban me that week. I need to make this very clear. I'm not trying to be dramatic. I would not be surprised if this show is not on YouTube in a month, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's on not on Facebook after a couple of months. And if we're not on YouTube and Facebook, that changes 95% of what we do, how we operate, how people watch this show. And I want to make this clear right now. If you log on to YouTube and we're not there, find us on Facebook, because I believe they're coming after YouTube first. And if we're not on YouTube or Facebook, you've got to go to our website, ZachDrewShow.com, or check out our Parler account. Very important, because I think the time is coming. Listen, it was just this week. It says YouTube removing any content they deem to be misleading. Now, they're not just deleting content like videos, which they are deleting videos of people's channels without their permission.
Right.
They're deleting thousands of channels.
Yes.
Just yesterday alone, they permanently deleted over 8,000 channels. The moment I read that, I immediately went to my YouTube thinking, I'm one of them. Now, praise God, we weren't, but our day is coming. They're removing any content they deem to be misleading by alleging widespread voter fraud. You can't talk about voter fraud. And I'm talking about right now on YouTube. You're watching this probably on YouTube or on Facebook.
Right.
Okay, so I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, because we're not going to compromise the message.
Exactly. Or errors how errors could have possibly changed the outcome of the 2020 U.S. election. Listen, just this week, okay, I posted a video, and I'm going to be playing it in 10 or 15 minutes. I posted a 5-minute video on Facebook. I think it was about 2 days ago. And within just, not within 6 weeks or 2 months, but within just the first few hours we had put it on, it went from 0 views to over 35,000. Almost, instantly. It was on track to truly becoming a viral video.
Yes.
I don't think it would have just had 100,000, 200,000 views. We went from 0 to 35,000 people watching it in a matter of a few hours on Facebook alone, and then boom, the views just stopped.
Yes.
We were absolutely censored. I had many people saying they couldn't even share the program, and others were trying to share it and was saying, are you sure you want to share this? And then you had the option to, but it said share anyway. They are suppressing our views on Facebook and on YouTube. In this last 10 days, our shows on Facebook have been viewed about, I would say close to 150,000 times in the last few days. But on YouTube, which we have a similar amount of subscribers, we garner 500, 1,000 views.
Yeah.
Doesn't make any sense. We are being suppressed. If I'm kicked off, go to the ZachDrewShow.com to continue watching our show each Friday and my Parler account. It's serious, people.
Yeah, and they've suppressed videos on Facebook before. We've seen numbers just completely stop before, but it really is getting serious now. I mean, like you said, they're banning full channels.
That's right, and we're going to get into it. But it's a part of the Great Reset. Actually, I have it here. I have it in my notes, and I'm going to read it. I didn't know how to I forgot to put this in my notes. This is part of the Great Reset. John Kerry, which is Biden's would-be special presidential envoy for climate, firmly declared that the Biden administration will support, with flying colors, the Great Reset, and that the Great Reset will happen with greater speed and with greater intensity than a lot of people might imagine. Biden Biden reveals devotion to radical green or Great Reset movement. The Great Reset, listen, people, it's about assimilating to the UN and to the rest of the world. The Great Reset, and we should spend a whole show talking about it. The Great Reset sounds a lot like the book of Revelation about to unfold.
Yeah. And YouTube is part of it, Facebook is part of it, but another big thing is the coronavirus. This whole thing wasn't just about the election. I really believe that and a lot of people have said this, that the coronavirus was in part to usher in this great global reset.
That's right. Hey, one more quick update, then we're going to get into Supreme Court Justice John Roberts, everything that's happening with the Supreme Court, and what happens if the vote goes to the House. But I want to give you an update on the fundraising. Once again, we have a special partner in California that has pledged $50,000 for our 2021 goals. And it's going to be matched dollar for dollar. So if you give $1, then we get $1 from, his name is Mark in California, up to $50,000. Right, we still have a long ways to go. We have raised, and it is a miracle what we've raised already. We've raised right at $18,000. Okay, so with Mark matching dollar for dollar, that's $36,000 that we have right now towards our 2021 goals, which are to stay on Comcast cable, to hire a part-time social media director and content marketing specialist, and this is the big one. This is the one that costs a lot of money, and this will help. This will help. If we are removed from YouTube and Facebook, that is where everybody watches this show.
Yeah.
The big goal is to go on to DirecTV and Dish Network throughout the entire country, not in select markets, okay? The whole country. If you have DirecTV or Dish Network, we would like to go on CTN, which is a Christian television network. But we would have to raise the full $50,000. So we have $38,000 more to raise before December 31st to get Mark's $50,000 matching pledge, which will give us $100,000. And the majority of that is for CTN. We had the first two goals, but CTN is $1,100 an episode. So that's almost $60,000 for the 12-month calendar year. But I do believe that if we're on there for a whole year, that it will ultimately start paying for itself by the new base of people that watch the show. Listen, we have so much more to cover on today's program. You're not going to want to miss it. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. This is the big one. As Michael Snyder in a recent article said, quote, "The mainstream media and many on the left are greatly underestimating the importance of the election case that was put on the Supreme Court docket this week. And that is a tragic mistake on their part. Just like Bush versus Gore in 2000, Texas versus Pennsylvania will be outcome determinative. In other words, the Supreme Court is about to decide whether Donald Trump or Joe Biden will be president for the next 4 years. This is huge. This is the big one. As Donald Trump recently even said, he said, quote, "This is the big one." Essentially, this is the case that we have been waiting for. And listen, don't make any mistake about it. This case is about the continuation of our Constitution. I can't make that any more clear. So what happened? Very late on Monday the 7th, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton filed a suit that alleged that voting procedures in the states of Georgia, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin violated the U.S. Constitution. This is a constitutional argument. This is how Paxton's bill of complaint began. Quote, "Our country stands at an important crossroads. Either the Constitution matters and must be followed, even when some officials consider it inconvenient or out of date, or it is simply a piece of parchment on display at the National Archives. We ask the court to choose the former. If the Supreme Court is faithful to the U.S. Constitution, the voting results in all 4 states will have to be thrown out." Like Jay Sekulow said, the Supreme Court could have taken one look at Paxton's suit and thrown it out, but that didn't happen. Instead, the case was officially put on the docket about 12 hours later. So in the natural, which we live in a natural and supernatural world.
Yes.
But in the natural realm, the Supreme Court is our last hope. The lower courts are full of liberal judges, and Trump's people haven't been winning anything. You see, whenever you have two Bushes, whenever you have the Clintons, whenever you have the Obamas, they have taken the patriots out of the system, out of our FBI, out of the DOJ, out of the courts, the lower courts that we're dealing with. Yeah. There's not a patriot to be found. That's what we're dealing with. And they have replaced them with who? Marxist communists. That is who they've been replaced by.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Justice John Roberts. You know, we might have to cover this a little bit more in another show because we already are quite a ways into the show. The word is that he's been compromised. Supreme Court Justice John Roberts. Attorney Lynn Wood has even loosely connected him to Epstein. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is not good news because we cannot afford to lose a single vote in this case.
Yeah.
I mean, it appears right now that the vote would be 6-3 in support of Trump. But if Roberts is compromised, that puts us at 5-4. And how many times have we thought we had the Supreme Court at 5-4, then another justice flips on us? Too many times. All right, so let's get into some of the details, and then we're going to get into if this moves to the House, what does that mean for President Trump? That is important. But right now, let's get into some of the details. So where are we at right now? Over 20 states are now involved in this suit. Some of the main points of the suit for the states are this. According to the brief that Texas filed, there are three primary issues that need to be addressed. First of all, it is alleged that officials in Georgia, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin violated the U.S. Constitution by taking non-legislative actions to change the election rules. So this is a thing where if they can prove that what they did is it goes against the Constitution, if we truly do have constitutional originalists on the Supreme Court justice, then they have a real chance of winning this thing.
That's right.
Let's see here. But the Electors Clause of the U.S. Constitution, gives state legislators the sole authority for determining how electors are selected. And so changing election rules without legislative approval should never be done. Here's a list from Heritage Foundation that contains a few examples of election rules being unconstitutionally altered. These are some of the details. Some of you guys aren't interested in the details. That's why I'm only going to spend about 2 minutes on the details. Pennsylvania. The complaint accuses Pennsylvania Secretary of State Kathy Boockvar of, among other things, without legislative approval, unilaterally abrogating Pennsylvania statutes that require signature verification for absentee or mail-in ballots. These changes were not ratified by the Pennsylvania legislature, meaning it is unconstitutional.
That's right. So basically, all these other states did this too. They said, because of coronavirus, we don't have to follow the law. And that's exactly what they did in the elections all over the country.
Mm-hmm. Georgia, in a very similar manner, the complaint describes how Georgia's Secretary of State, also without legislative approval, unilaterally abrogated Georgia's statute governing the signature verification process for absentee ballots. Michigan, the complaint states that Michigan Secretary of State abrogated Michigan election statutes related to absentee ballot applications and signature verifications. All of these unconstitutional.
Yeah.
Wisconsin, lastly, the Wisconsin's Election Commission made similar changes in state laws without the permission of the legislator that, quote, weakened or did away with established security procedures put in place by the Wisconsin legislature to ensure absentee ballot integrity. So this is a constitutional battle.
That's right.
Once again, I want to thank Jay Sekulow and Michael Snyder for that bit, for kind of condensing it down. breaking down the info, because if Texas wins their case, this is important, and the Supreme Court rules in their favor, the electoral votes of Georgia, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin would suddenly not belong to anyone. And the Supreme Court would need to give those states direction on how to proceed. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton is asking the court to declare that all electoral votes from those 4 states not be counted. Quote, in the suit, Paxton asks the High Court to declare that any electoral college votes cast by such presidential electors appointed in defendant states Pennsylvania, Georgia, Michigan, and Wisconsin are in violation of the electors and the 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution and cannot be counted. At that point, chaos will ensue.
Absolutely, because basically the results of the election, we don't know if they've been flipped or not, but it's been thrown out. Joe Biden is no longer, considered the president-elect. The country's going to go crazy. What we've been seeing in the streets in the summer, in the spring, it won't even compare to what's going to happen.
Can you just think about that for a moment? That over 20 states have got behind Texas in this suit. The Supreme Court didn't even have to hear it, but they realize that it's so, they can see that it really is such a constitutional matter. They put it in the docket within 12 hours of viewing it because of this voter fraud, because of the constitutional errors that they have made. But yet YouTube says if you question any of this, we're booting you.
It's insane.
It's a part of the Great Reset. You see, news services, Fox News, or like the AP, they don't call presidential elections. But the news services say that Joe Biden has 306 electoral college votes right now. So if he's denied Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Georgia, that leaves him with 244 votes. 26 votes off from 270. So if neither candidate gets 278 votes, this will go to the House, and the House will decide who the president is. I've talked about this, and many people think that Pelosi controls the House, and they'll simply vote Biden in. But the Constitution says that each state has one singular vote in this. Okay? And that vote will be at this point, worst case scenario, 23-27 in Trump's favor, and he'll win in the House. He will be the next president if it goes to the House. And even something interesting I've talked about before as well, just putting it in here. The Senate votes for the vice president, and it will be more of a standard vote. There are 2 senators per state for a total of 100 senators. That is why the 2 Senate races in Georgia are so vital right now. There are currently 50 Republican senators and 48 Democrat senators. So worst case scenario, if the Dems win both the races in Georgia for Senate and it's a complete deadlock, 50-50 for who the vice president is going to be, in that scenario, according to the Constitution, the current sitting vice president, which is Mike Pence, gets the deciding vote. How awesome is that? Listen, we're going to take a very quick break, and I'm going to be playing for you a very powerful video that got totally censored this week on does the military have Trump's back? Take a listen to this video, then we're going to come back and wrap it up. Does the military have Donald Trump's back? 4-star Army General Paul Nakasone serves as the commander of the United States Cyber Command. He is the man behind the scenes that set up this voter fraud sting operation for President Trump in 2018, all in preparation for the 2020 elections. You see, Trump knew about voter fraud in 2012, years before he even took office. Christopher Charles Miller is the acting United States Secretary of Defense and director of the National Counterterrorism Center. It was under his direction that U.S. Special Operation Forces seized a server farm a Dominion voting server farm in Germany that is owned by the CIA. We've already discussed this in previous videos. This special forces group that seized the servers works specifically for the president. Now, I can't verify this, but apparently they don't even do anything but report directly to him. For them to know what was going on, where it went, I'm talking about the votes on election night, where the server farm was, who was in control of the server farm, and that it was taking place from the get-go, right off the bat, this clearly illustrates that they had foresight of the details, what was to come. It's a very sophisticated system. They know a lot more than they're letting on. The special forces were getting a great deal of their intel from the Kraken, also known as the 305th Military Intelligence Battalion. I fully believe General Flynn is a part of that. President Trump had two sets of numbers in front of him on election night and beyond election night. The real numbers and the numbers the AP reported. So he knew the entire time. Think about that. He knew the true vote and the fraud vote in real time. People that have seen data say that Trump won by 10 million votes and should have received nearly 400 votes from the Electoral College. So where are we at now? They have the data. Now, they've been leaking some info through Sidney Powell these last 10 days to kind of whet the appetite of the public. You see, General McFarlane has said he wants 100 million people to believe that there is voter fraud before they act. We are at that point right now. I'm forecasting that by the end of this week, it is going to heat up to such a point that the general public is going to be saying, oh my gosh, I think Trump may actually have this. You just watch, wait and see. The polls right now state that 90% of conservatives believe voter fraud took place, and even 30% of Democrats believe that some voter fraud took place. This is all a part of phase one, the public phase, to educate the people. There are about 10 different types of voter fraud going on a small time scale. And as this phase is ending, which it is right now, the people are starting to know they're caught. And many of these people are starting to make deals. So we're getting lots of good intel right now. There were so many caught in this thing. The presidency, I believe, will be determined fairly quickly. But to get the people behind the bars, it's going to take 6 months. And it's going to take the military's involvement. Now, let's bring Iran and China into this mess for a minute. It is a known fact that Iran and China are involved. Actually, the parent company, this came out just a few days ago, you probably saw it in the news. The parent company of Dominion Voting Systems received $400 million from an investment bank in Switzerland that is 75% owned by the Chinese government on October 20th. They did this in an attempt to destabilize our government and bring down our free market system. People, don't have your head stuck in the sand. This is an absolute and total act of war. And they're very scared with how Trump is going to retaliate when this is all over. The U.S. is already moving ships and troops. Troops and battleships are much closer to Iran and China than they were just 2 months ago. That's why Israel is actually on high alert right now, because they probably think that Iran might strike first. Let me end with this for the people that wonder where this is going. The server farms from multiple locations, not just Frankfurt, Germany, providing intel on Dominion voting machines, have provided so much more information than just that. They have information on people, prominent people, that needed to have been prosecuted for years. They have information on these servers that has implicated them. This is going to end well. We've got a long road ahead of us, but have faith. I hope you enjoyed that video. Once again, that's the video on Facebook that garnered 35,000 views in just a few hours. It should have went viral, and then boom, it was absolutely censored. So we're putting it back on YouTube right now, and it's going to go on Facebook again. So we'll see what they do. Once again, we're not going to compromise our message, even if that means we are kicked off. We believe that the Lord will make a way. even if that is going on TV. And once again, if you want to get involved, we've raised $18,000 of the $50,000 we're trying to raise by December 31st. With that money, it'll be matched up to $50,000 by an additional partner, which will make it possible for us to accomplish all of our television goals for 2021, which will be on, that means we'll be on DirecTV and Dish Network throughout the whole country on, we're trying to make it on CTN, which would be the best one to go on. Go to ZachDrewShow.com and donate. Write us at P.O. Box 797, Decatur, Illinois, 62525. Listen, why are we talking about these things? Why is a Christian show talking about these things?
Yeah.
Ephesians 5:11 says, have nothing to do with the fruitless deeds of darkness, but rather expose them.
Yeah. And like we've said on the show, we're living in the last days. We know what's going to happen. We know that an Antichrist system is going to be given to the Antichrist. There's going to be a one world government that is already established when he steps on the scene.
That's a very good point, because a lot of people don't understand that.
That's right.
People think that whenever the son of perdition, the Antichrist, comes upon the scene, that he's going to create this one world government. No, he inherits it. So it precedes the Antichrist being on earth, which means it has to be established before it gets here, which means you're saying we'd see it being built.
We'd see it being built right now, and we are seeing it being built right now.
That's right. You see, Biden is a part of ushering in the beast system. That's why we're fighting it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that Biden is the Antichrist, but he will prepare the world for one. And people thinking, oh, how could Biden, like someone like I mean, he hides in his basement, can't even talk, like he's senile, like how can Biden? Biden is the party of socialism. Socialism is bent on destroying America as we know it. If America falls, that's it. There is only one country that stands in the way of a global order, and it's America. And it won't take long to destroy it. Look at Venezuela.
And there's a lot of things that are being considered political issues that are not political issues at all. The topic of abortion is not a political issue. Our children are being murdered in our nation. And Biden, in his first 100 days as president, is going to completely reverse all of the pro-life Trump policies that he has established. It's about the culture. That's part of the beast system. Maybe the biggest part, the spiritual culture. I mean, we are moving towards perversity. And in our schools, I mean, kindergartners in our public schools right now are being taught sex education. They're being taught that their gender is fluid. They're being taught that they can decide what gender they want to be.
God, I just pray that you would intervene. God, intervene like only you can intervene. You are sovereign. You are in control. May your perfect will happen. And I just pray, Father, that you would give us more time to preach the gospel, to preach the truth, Lord. God, have your way. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Listen, we are totally out of time for today. We'll see you next week.